So hey, welcome back to Auto Transport Copilot. Today I have an exciting guest, Skye Haulman, co-founder and CEO of One Auction View. Skye, you were a dealer for over 20 years. Prior to launching One Auction View, I think you were president of Autolocators. You're a long-term automotive industry veteran. You've got some interesting stories. There's some innovations you've introduced into the space. I'm excited to get into this with you today. So first of all, I want to welcome you to the Auto Transport Copilot podcast, and I want to thank you for making time to do this.
Yeah, thank you, Beck. I appreciate the invitation. I always love getting onto these podcasts and getting to talk to people that are very informed, industry insiders like yourself, and people that are changing the landscape of a space like you SuperDispatch is doing for the transport world. So super excited to be on here. Thank you again for the invitation, and look forward to talking more about the cool stuff that we're both doing.
Yeah, man, we'll have a good conversation. I've known you for a few years now, and I've watched you grow One Auction View, and I've been one of your biggest fans on this journey. But for those of us, especially in our audience, we have a lot of carriers, brokers, shippers, other people that are involved in the automotive space and the transport sector. Take a moment and introduce yourself to those of us that don't know you very well yet.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So again, my name is Skye Haulman. I've been a car dealer for 22 years, actually, this year in May. But more importantly, during that journey, I've been involved in repo business. I owned a repo business from '07 to '09, so I intimately know transportation. I am also a broker as well in the space, so I do understand transport. But more importantly, with me being a dealer, I've shipped cars to almost every state in America and half a dozen countries around the planet. So I am very, very intimately familiar with transportation in all aspects of transportation. And obviously I was in the repo business, so rollbacks and all that fun stuff, as you guys know, I'm very, very familiar with that, operating them, fixing them, cleaning them, keeping them in service. So I really, really respect what the transport world has to do to get my cars to me as a dealer.
Yeah. Well, you got me thinking and wondering what part of the audience or how many people we have that also do repossessions. I know we have a growing number of carriers that are also involved in that space, so maybe that's a space we can start talking about a little bit more now that we have you as a guest. But thinking about talking to you today, I was trying to remember how we met. Do you remember how we met?
I do. Used car week. We were at used car week, and I just was getting an award for top automotive startup by Steve Greenfield, which is an amazing person. Very grateful for that opportunity from Steve Greenfield. But we were there and we were talking about transportation. I remember it was over, you were getting coffee and I was getting tea. I remember this, and we were just talking. Hey, you're like, well, what is the problem you're trying to solve with transportation? And I had never met you before, and you'd never met me before, and we just were spitballing that, hey, it's got to be digital, it's got to be high value, low touch point, and all these things that we were talking about, kind of were the impetus of everything that we've done forward, and it's really hasn't deviated from anything that we've initially talked about.
Yeah, I love that event, Used Car Week. They do such a good job. Cherokee Media Group, such an excellent team and a great event. One of my favorites for sure. I remember that day as well. I remember for the next hour or two us visioning and talking about the digital future and how what we're doing plays into making things easier for companies in the automotive space. What you may not know or you may not have known at the time is that I've been following your story up until that point. Because I remember I saw your pitch. I was very happy that you won the competition. Didn't you have a big check as well?
Yes, yeah, big check, and I had to take it home on the plane. It was funny having it on the plane in front of my seat. I still remember that. It was like sticking over the seat of the person in front. Awesome. They were cool. They're like, "It's okay, just hold it there. Don't let it fly around." But yeah, it was cool.
Obligatory big check. You know what? We should hold our big checks and do like a photo, side by side photo.
Absolutely.
You still have it, right?
I do.
At least you have a photo. Great. We'll do that. But what you may not have known is that I've been following your story a little bit because you'd come on the scene, you had some posts on LinkedIn, and I think you were going on the ATI show a little bit. So I found your play very interesting, and I think you were or maybe still are one of the first people to have taken this approach to wholesale car buying experience for dealers. So I've been stalking you is what I'm trying to say for a little bit of time. So it may not have been an accident that I ended up at the same coffee and tea table as you. So, but I'm glad to have met you. I'm glad to be a part of the journey. So one of the things I want to ask you first is looking back at your background. And I saw that you've started multiple businesses, right? You've had, and three of them at least have been in auto businesses. So you're clearly very entrepreneurial, and now now you're building this tech venture. What's behind that? What inspires your entrepreneurship? What is it what's driving you?
I really love to solve problems. That's really probably the neatest thing that I when I see a problem in the space, I love to solve it. And that's obviously why I got into tech. And I got into tech because I was looking for a solution for my problem. And my problem was keeping track of cars that are at auction. And there's lots of cars and lots of different venues for car dealers to be able to find those vehicles. So that's where, first and foremost, where I got involved in tech, because I said, all right, there's not a solution for me to look at every single one of my auctions, a way that I want to see them in easily digestible data, simple, easy, where it's not overtly complex, because there is some solutions out there, but they're super complex.
Yeah.
But they don't have the entire industry landscape in there. So that's why me as a dealer, I went to solve my problem. And then when I was solving my problem, I realized that my problem was every single dealer in America's problem. So that's really exciting for me.
Yeah, man. The people like you make the world a better place, solving problems and making things better. Tech is also awesome because it allows you to make a huge impact on a large number of people. Is there a particular reason that you started working in the auto industry of anything else you could have done with your life?
I love machines. I'm a gearhead. I'm that person that, Car and Driver, Hot Rod Magazine, Hot V Dubs, all those machines. I grew up to those magazines and reading them and, gawking over all the machines and all that stuff. And I just love machines. I'm a gearhead. I love playing with machines. So big machines, small machines, shiny machines, fast machines. They're all just exciting to me.
Right. There's a kid in you who's never grown up.
I have a shirt that says "Still plays with cars" that I wear. That's definitely very indicative of my personality. That I love machines.
Yeah, great, man. So let's go back to how you started out. So from what I could tell, you started out in the auto repossession business, right? So tell us about that.
Yeah, technically, I started with a car dealership in '02. And then in '07, I got into the repo world. So I had already been in the car business for about 5 years. And that's when I got into repo after I realized, '05, '04, '05, '06, I started seeing pressure on the market and starting to see more repos. It was literally every person that was coming in was having a repo. And I'm thinking, geez, maybe I should get in on this action. And obviously, as we know, '07 to 10, 11, 12 were really pretty darn good years to be in the repo world.
Good. Tell us why, in case anyone in the audience doesn't know.
No, absolutely. Just a reminder, obviously, when the market really dropped out in '07 was really the kind of the real fallout from the market. And that was obviously, the Lehman Brothers and it started from, the securities that obviously were backing real estate that kind of self-imploded. And from there was a ripple effect that really pretty much obviously affected everybody in every industry, I would say, for multiple years. So with that being said, I kind of realized ahead of time that I should probably pivot my business model, go into subprime vehicles, and get in the repo business. So about a year before the market fell out, I had already pivoted and was pretty much ready for everything. So it didn't catch me by surprise like it did 99% of everybody.
Yeah, great timing. Great insight as well. Did you um, did you keep your dealership?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Okay.
killed it. I crushed it during that time. We did so well with we just every car we had was 10 grand and under. It was subprime special fi. We were one of the first people, believe it or not, that were on Craigslist. We did Craigslist ads.
Yeah,
We
I remember that.
there was no dealers
Yeah.
on there when we were on there,
Really?
and it was really cool. And we killed it with funny ads that spoke to people. Hey, you lost your job, you have a problem, bad credit. We can help, and we did. I mean, we absolutely crushed it during that period, and we helped people get into cars. And obviously, we just specialized in subprime vehicles during for it had to have been 4 or 5 years. It was a really long run.
I forgot about buying cars off of Craigslist. That was real. I bought cars off of Craigslist. I
Yeah,
remember now.
yeah. I bought in private party cars off of
Yeah.
there as well. I
Yeah.
think everybody has at one point.
So you've been a dealer for a long time. You've built successful dealership business. How did you get started in that business, and what is it like? Is that a good business to be in? And what is it? Tell us about what it's like to build that business and the types of problems and challenges you face being a
Sure.
dealer.
That was one of the hardest things I've done. I got out of college. Just think you're a broke college kid, and you're thinking, I could have went to, one of these entry level programs where it would get me into, some entry level management or something like that. And I was looking at, all right, I could do that and make a meager wage, or I could maybe look at being a car dealer. And I'm like, well, I don't have much money. I had $10,000 and credit cards, because obviously when you're in college they handed them out like cotton candy when I was there. So I had credit cards, tons of credit cards, and I had 10 grand cash. I said, you know what? If there's ever a better time in life to just throw it all on black and just let the wheel spin, post college when you got no other real debt or obligations is the best time to do it. So I did it, and it was really hard because obviously I didn't have the internet was not very prolific in '02. There really wasn't much stuff to lean on. There wasn't tech that I could say, hey, how do I do this? How do I navigate this? It was a super learning curve. Granted, I did have some experience in sales. I in college I did sell cars at tent cells with my sister, which was really cool. That's where I got a taste of the car business, where I realized, hey, tent cells, man, these make a lot of money just selling cars, and it's not a lot of work. And that's really kind of gave me a taste of the car business. And then also I also was one of the, I can't remember how many, but I want to say it was a couple thousand college kids that Daewoo Motor America picked that were in college to go fly to South Korea and help them launch a product, a new vehicle in the U.S.
Right.
And Daewoo Motor America, I was one of those kids that they flew over there, showed us the factory, gave us the whole wine and dine tour, and said, all right, we're going to give you a car. We expect you to go market. And lo and behold, it was probably one of the biggest marketing flops I think ever, because their target audience was
Uh-huh.
not college kids. It was people that were out of college. It was like 25 to 35. So they
Yeah.
they missed the mark altogether. But nonetheless, it gave me valuable experience learning, the dealership world. Also being a salesperson, because I got my formal sales license, and that really kind of gave me a leg up into that world, into that space. And then I was doing tent sales with my sister, selling used cars, which was really cool. Those were a blast too. Tent sales were in the late '90s is when they really came to fruition, and you would see them at Walmart. That's where we did them, at the Walmart tent sales. And they would go and commandeer, half of the parking lot there, somebody going in. I remember a lady going in to get toilet paper, and I sold her a car. That was one of those memorable things. So she was going in to get toilet paper and walked out with a car, and I remember her saying that I just wanted toilet paper, and here I got a car.
Sounds like a Costco experience. You go to Costco,
Yeah.
get one thing, and walk out with $1,000 bill.
Yeah, exactly. You walk out, walk out with a whole truckload of $1,000 worth of stuff from Costco. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's let me ask you this. What is a? I'm gonna ask you a couple dumb questions because I just I don't know as much as you do. But what is a TCell?
A tent cell were the cells that they were pop-up events. They were pop-up events at obviously big retailers like Walmart was the big one, and they put up these literally like circus-like events where there was these big tents. They were red and white, and it looked circus-like, and the cars were all staged inside there and outside in the parking lot. So it was really this big. It was really like a circus. Really, it was, and that kind of really, that's really what hooked me on the car business of this kind of exciting circus-like event going on where all these shiny cars would come in. This GM or owner would pull up in his Viper or Porsche or some real flashy car, and everybody's there selling cars, and money was everywhere, and it was just. It was the circus met the car business, and for me it was super exciting, and that really hooked me. I'm certain that was the hook that set in that never let out.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. I've never seen one. This is gonna be one of the first things I Google as soon as we finish this.
Yeah. They really kind of died out because they had problems with. When you sold a car in a tent cell, and they were, you could be 100 to 300 miles away from your dealership. So when you sold the car and you had a post-sale problem, i.e. the brakes squeaked, or there was an oil leak, or there was a stip that you had to chase, it was hard to service that customer. So what happened is the DMV cracked down on that. Obviously, industry people cracked down on it, and they didn't want these off-site sales to be too far from the dealership because it was burdensome to the consumer. So that's one of the things in hindsight that I learned from that.
Yeah, makes sense. Was there a transportation aspect involved during that time? What was transport like?
Yeah, during that time it was. I remember it was all everything would show up on 9-car haulers. It was very, very expensive. I remember. My sister and them always complained about how expensive the transport was because they had to load up these 9-car haulers, multiple ones, and they would take the cars from the dealership and truck them down to the tent cell, and then obviously whatever didn't sell had to get trucked back. So it was all call, write stuff on a piece of paper. It was all very mundane manual process. It was nothing that was technology induced or flavor in there at all.
Gotcha. Yeah, and we'll get more into that later on. One of the things that I learned while looking at your background is that you are a small part of automotive history. You've helped introduce something new and novel into the automotive industry, specifically around people's ability to acquire by ATVs. Right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah. The sandrail financing. So from 05 to 08, if you bought a dune buggy, I had a partner then that did all the SAE VIN attachment to the frames on all these vehicles, but I was doing the financing for them. So if you bought a dune buggy from that period, 05 to 08, we did the financing for you, and it was cool because it was pre Polaris, Razor, pre Can-Am. The only thing that was out there was obviously the Rhino. The Rhino was the first side by side. So it was really cool that we were in really in the middle of it, just like the boat world was. If you remember, in the early '90s when boats came out, it was cash and carry with boats. You couldn't you had to pull a HELOC or a second on your house. Their financing wasn't there. So the
Yeah.
same thing with the dune buggies. The financing wasn't there until we introduced that. And me, being that I was a car dealer, I had access to banks, and I could, I pitched a couple of my big banks this, and I said, hey, you can, there's a VIN, there's a resale market, there's a demand for this, and the collateral is solid, the people are solid, and they bit. So it was really cool. We did. I don't even know how many we did, but it was a sizable amount.
So those of us who are able to buy and finance ATVs nowadays who couldn't before have you to thank for.
I'd like to think that there's some hand in that, but it is what it is. If you're an early person to the process, you typically set the stage for the future.
Great, man. So let's keep trailblazing. Um, let's switch gears into one auction view. So you've had this business successfully. You've learned a ton. You've always been entrepreneurial. I'm loving the story so far. What inspired you to move into the auction space?
Well, really, truly, again, I like solving problems. So I like solving problems, and I really like to find a solution to a really challenging problem. And obviously, as a dealer, I realized that there wasn't a solution out there that catered to me, that wasn't a dealer specific solution. Most of the solutions that are out there in the industry are typically created by people that are outside the industry. They're usually tech people that say, this is our vision of what we think is the solution to this problem. It's not crafted by industry insiders, rather the other way around. So that's why I kind of wanted to change the narrative and say, all right, I never liked a lot of the things that the tech solutions that were out there. I always thought things were clunky. They didn't work right. They just weren't easy to use. It didn't speak my language as a car dealer. So that's why I decided that I had to get involved in it and say, hey, this is what we need as car buying people. This is the tech that we need and the solution that we need that speaks to us and solves our problem.
Yeah. What were those problems that you saw?
Well, one, being able to seamlessly search vehicles across all platforms. That is first and foremost. There's nothing out there that allows a dealer to seamlessly search across all platforms and fluidity and make it really easy for them to find vehicles. And then second, for them to be able to evaluate them in real time. Next one is them be able to save those vehicles in one area to come back to. Because think of it, you've got all these different logins. You can't save those vehicles on each different platform, and you forget that platform that you were in there, and there was a car you're supposed to look at today. So it's impossible to save all those, keep a track of it, and then have on top of that save searches that you have running in the background all the time, independent on each one of these sites. That each site is an island, and they don't talk to each other. So with our tech, you can seamlessly search, you could evaluate, you could save all those vehicles, you could do save searches across the platforms. And then obviously the neatest thing that we just rolled out is obviously the ability to transport vehicles both inbound and outbound, which is really exciting. And inbound is obviously from auction, and then outbound is obviously any other vehicle not at auction, customer derived. Your neighbor calls you up, says, "Hey, I'm relocating. I need to go to Texas." Dealer partners can easily use our app to seamlessly move vehicles with obviously the amazing integration that we did with our friends at SuperDispatch.
Yeah, yeah. I think we have a lot in common in that regard. Especially the OEE journey and the SuperDispatch journey. You make a good point about being an insider in the industry and knowing and feeling the pain points yourself, being a dealer, being involved in transport and repossession, buying cars from multiple auctions. Similar to how we used to be dispatchers and carriers, worked very closely with shippers and brokers and dealers, and just riding around in trucks with carriers, seeing all the paperwork and phone calls, and inability to track the cars or inspect them or track down BOLs or get paid on time. Everything being so manual, and going into creating this end-to-end experience where ultimately the customer digitally, electronically can do everything they need to do in one place, right? You're doing this with wholesale, like for dealers. Anything that the dealer needs to do with the wholesale buying, they can do in one place. Selling, you don't get involved in selling, right? Just acquisition of cars.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. All right, next episode, maybe. So I love this end-to-end experience, and first-hand knowledge of building an end-to-end experience, end-to-end platform for transporting cars for the whole industry. I know it's not easy, right? It's not something you just do overnight. So tell us a little bit about the challenging aspects of getting OAV off the ground.
Yeah, it's transport is such a big problem in the industry right now, and transport is something that I think is overtly neglected a lot of times, and most dealers will either buy cars within a certain geographic distance, say 100 miles of their dealership, because they're used to texting their friend or normal carrier that'll pick cars up. So they don't want to shop outside of a normal pond that they fish in. So what we have done, arming the dealer with these real-time quotes that are actionable for them to be able to action on, to be able to book that transport and not change the price, but know exactly what it is super, super important in today's world. Because again, the dealers have been kind of stuck in their way of just shopping within a small area, because again, they're just not comfortable shopping outside of that, because there's this unknown in transport. Hey, how much is it going to cost me to move that car? I bought it in Texas and it's got to go to California. I bought it in Kansas and it has to go to Florida. And that's what I believe that we're solving in the real world today is that efficiency, transparency for the dealer to be able to see and make these decisions in real time. If there's a wholesale vehicle that's out there in that marketplace and they want to be able to buy it and move it, we got them covered.
Yeah. Great. So your dealers, and I know your product is very popular with dealers. They love what you're offering into the market. So they can source the cars, they can look at all the auctions, they can find the cars they want, they can buy the cars, and I believe they can also finance, right? They can do floor planning and finance on your platform. Financing.
Well, we have a partnership. Yeah, we have a partnership with Kinetic Advantage that we're embedded into their app. So obviously, those dealers, when they find those vehicles and they do want to transact with partner auctions, they can obviously check out and floor with the Kinetic Advantage folks. So it makes it super, super easy and transparent for the dealers to be able to conduct business wherever they want to, within the geographic boundaries of the United States. So that's what's cool is we just expanded their ability to buy vehicles, not just in that 100-mile radius, but the entire United States is now their fishing pond.
Yeah, that's great. So as you're introducing the solution into the market and you're coming in and introducing this to dealers and working with auctions, how has the industry been reacting to this? Have they been receptive?
Pretty much most of everybody has been really pretty darn cool. They've been really, really great at embracing what we're doing and how we're doing it. and obviously I always tell everybody, so it disarms them. We are connecting auctions with dealers and dealers with auctions. Nothing more, nothing less. And so it's not taking away anything from anybody. It's not harming anybody. It's not hurting anybody. Dealers are going to buy where they're going to buy. And obviously, if there is a car that they want to buy, they're going to buy it. So that's the thing. And that kind of Expedia-like model that I like to use, that is essentially what we do. We're an Expedia for auctions for car dealers.
Yeah, yeah, love it. What looking back so far, and I know you still have a lot ahead of you as you continue scaling and growing One Auction View. But so far, what have been some of your proudest moments in building One Auction View?
I would say Used Car Week was pretty darn exciting. That was exciting being able
'Cause
to
we
get
met.
up on,
Right?
get up
Yeah.
on stage and meet a lot of different folks and talk to a lot of different people and get that award. It's also exciting too, talking to dealers, and I'm sharing with them what we're doing and what we're solving, and they get to see it in real world, and they get to say, "Wow, this is amazing! I can't believe that this does that. That there's a solution that can do this." So that's really exciting for me, is when I get to hear the feedback from them, that they're excited, what we're solving, and what it's actually doing for them. That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Congrats, man. Really proud of what
Thank
you've
you.
accomplished so far, and obviously really happy to be part of the journey. I want to touch a little bit on the transport piece. You've been methodically adding these core components, and you've added this transport piece. But I want to take a step back first, and just tap into your mind and your experience of being a dealer, and then the repo business, and then the auction business, and understanding what was the problem with transport. What was it like before?
Well, transport initially, the way that it worked as a dealer is most dealers before, really truly before the auction even got involved in any transport, pardon me, the dealers there would be people that were drivers of the cars in lane, and they would always hit you up, say, "Hey, I'll drive it back to your lot. I'll drive it back to your lot." And what I would do is, after I bought cars, I would have these guys. It was $20. That was always the deal. They would drive the cars back to your lot.
Yeah,
Granted, I didn't know if they had insurance. I didn't know how they'd be covered if anything happened. So it was really a slippery slope. And then as time kind of evolved, obviously the auction realized, hey, we're losing money. We could have our own people drive these cars. So the auction brought in drivers to be able to deliver cars, and they would drive them themselves. And then time marches on from there. Obviously, the auction said, okay, we could have a rollback, or we could have another transport service handle that, and they get involved further in transport. And obviously, from there, it started, the cost obviously started ramping up. It started getting a little bit more and more every threshold that things progressed. And the latest progression is obviously the auction has its own broker services, which get in the middle of transporting these vehicles. But the problems are exponential there, because one, the cost is not only high, but the service and the quality is really not there for the car dealer. You don't get transparency. It's really hard to get a hold of these people if there's an issue. They're a broker, and chances are they sub this out to a broker who then has a driver actually driving it. So it takes a lot of energy to get a hold of somebody and get feedback. Hey, I bought this car, I transported it. What's going on with it? And obviously, there's no digital bill of ladings, which for me is such a huge thing. When I'm buying cars out of my comfort zone, I want to be able to see that car and the condition of that car en route to me, so that way I know if there's an issue, I could start an arbitration on that car while it's on the truck or while it's coming to me, because there's something that got called out in the digital bill of lading.
Yeah. Thank you. So as you were evaluating potential solutions for one auction view, and looking at what's out there and what's available. Tell me a little bit about what you've learned as you start diving into what's happening on the transport side of the automotive world.
Yeah, transport is really pretty darn exciting, at least from my vantage point, because it's really like the Wild West, and it's really like the Wild West in many aspects because it's still at its infancy, and the Wild West was up for grabs, as we all know. You had to go out there and just stake your claim, and that's pretty much what's happening with transport. Is there's a lot of different players that are coming into transport, and they're trying to stake their claim, if you would. So, but I think the reality is the people that have the best solution, that have the most adoption, are going to win, and that's really what it comes down to: is the best solution, the best tech that everybody likes, and the most adoption. Because these carriers, and I know I talked to them, I've been interviewing over the last few years when they're delivering my cars. I ask them, hey, who are you using for your bill of ladens? Who are you using, technology? What apps do you like? What apps do you not like? And they all tell me they hate having to log into 10 or 15 different apps. They really, truly do. And that's burdensome. I never really thought about that, but that's burdensome for a carrier to have all these different things that they have to log into because they're moving this person's car and they want you to log into that. So that's one common theme that I found is SuperDispatch is really prolific across almost all carriers. Everybody knows who SuperDispatch is. It's easy. The adoption, I never had one person say it's difficult to use or hard to use. So that's my some of my input on transport. Does that make sense, Beck?
Yeah, yeah. I had a funny anecdote a few years ago. The carrier adoption has been great, and I think the fact that we came from the carrier side has been super helpful in understanding how to build a solution to solve those problems, and especially going into servicing shippers and brokers and auctions and platforms. It's also been super helpful. But I had a few years ago, I had a story where one of the early investors in SuperDispatch, someone that just wanted to support SuperDispatch, they didn't know a lot. They didn't know a lot about the industry, but 3 years later, her car was delivered to her house, and the driver was using SuperDispatch. So she secret shop interviewed the driver about what he thinks and all that, and fortunately the driver had a lot of good things to say, and it's been cool. So sometimes stories like that happen. I don't think I realized the scale of adoption for I just didn't think about it as much until I started hearing a lot of anecdotal stories, of people just getting deliveries, and or people like BOLs or invoices somehow, or they come across someone that's wearing T-shirts. That's another thing. Today, the sales team does this. Stan started this thing where if he sees a car hauler on the side of the road, he'll pull over, say hello, and give him a T-shirt and take a selfie. And then now the sales team started doing that. So we have this thing on Slack where people start sharing their photos with car haulers. And I did that once. I pulled up into a dealership, and then there was this guy, and he was also using SuperDispatch. So I did a little superhero move because I was wearing a SuperDispatch T-shirt. So I did one of these, and it had the SuperDispatch logo. That was fun.
Nice.
So let's jump to the solution that we're using with you for a moment. I think just from your perspective, tell us a little bit about how OAV is leveraging this end-to-end platform, and how OAV is leveraging SuperDispatch day to day.
Well, SuperDispatch is really our hub for connecting all things transport, and that's what's really exciting is the piece here that we have woven in SuperDispatch to be able to give us these real-time updates for the dealers, the digital bill of ladens, and obviously through our transport partners that are actually brokers that are moving the vehicles, the quotes. So everything runs inside and outside of Super seamlessly, and it's that single source of truth that is really, really pretty exciting because there's There's no outliers. There's no weirdness that happens. Everything just comes in, and everything is clean and streamlined and organized. And the dealers get these updates, which they desperately need and want. They get the digital bill of ladings. They get status updates, and all these things that you take for granted happen. They happen digitally. And that's what's really cool is most of all the other solutions that I've looked at, there has to be a lot of heavy lifting in the background to flip a switch or toggle a button or do something to make it happen. Everything that we do with the SuperDispatch integration is 100% digital and is 100% automated. So that is super, super important to me. 1, for scaling, 2, for trusting, and 3, for transparency. Because transparency to me is of the utmost importance, me being a dealer, and I'm pitching obviously everything that we do to dealers, and I want to make sure that I'm a transparent partner and I can look them in the eye and say, our solution is the best and it's going to cover you, Mr. Dealer, and you don't have to worry. So that's really exciting.
Thank you. That's helpful. As someone who's a visionary and an innovator, and someone who now has a pretty in-depth knowledge of transport, auto transport, and the automotive world, what are some things that you would like to see in the future of auto transport?
Really good question. Really, really good question. I would say, carrier tracking. I think, and that's kind of a hot button now because I did touch on that. Everyone has to have that app up, and obviously, it's kind of a privacy invasion to some of the drivers. I understand if they're at a rest stop or they're somewhere they don't want to be tracked. So I think there's going to be some middle ground that'll be, hey, when they're on the road and they're rolling, hey, they can provide these updates and this feedback of exactly where the car is without it feeling invasive to them. So that's one of the things. Also, I think as things really progress in the marketplace, if you would, in transport, I think dealers are going to be buying vehicles more where they present themselves as the best deal, and not as opposed to in that 100, 200, or even 500-mile radius, really, truly, that we typically see. So that's going to mean that there's more opportunity for the transport business and the carrier business, because dealers are going to be doing more of these onesie twosies purchases, which everybody sees that now. There's two buys that are happening all day long, and really the last 2 years, that's really been kind of the theme. It's no longer buy a load at one auction and just have those sent over to your store. So I really think more of these onesie twosie moves are going to proliferate, but also on the flip side, we're also going to have those vehicles for the customer wanting to get delivered to the customer. Customers will start transacting digitally. I think that's going to be a little bit slower embrace. I think the dealers will buy out of state before the customer is doing that on a regular basis. But nonetheless, Carvana, Vroom, these guys conditioned the buyers that it's okay to be able to buy cars out of state, and eBay too. I should have thrown eBay in there. And now Amazon is getting in the space with Hyundai. So it'll be interesting to see how transport is going to play into, obviously, helping move the needle for both wholesale and as well as retail.
What advice do you have for auto transport companies, or feedback to carriers, drivers, their dispatchers or brokers or shippers, and companies involved in auto transport space?
One word: communication. Communication is king. It's key. As long as everybody communicates, the breakdown of communication is not there. So again, communication. As long as everybody is letting everybody know, hey, there was a mechanical breakdown on this vehicle. Hey, we had a problem with weather. Something happened. Just as long as something's communicated, the car dealer or the customer, whoever they may be, is happy. So that's my that's my big word, because that's where all my frustration happens as a car dealer, is when the breakdown of communication. And really that is not just for transport, that's for any aspect of what I do. Communication is absolutely key.
Yeah, great advice. So looking ahead at 2024, 25, and the future, what does future look like for Skye and for One Auction View?
I was telling other people at the NADA conference when I was there in Las Vegas that I really believe partnerships and integrations are key to any software, and especially obviously what we're doing, because one, it strengthens the relationships between the parties, and they can't abandon one another because they're immersed with one another and they're integrated. And I truly think the car business, at least for my entire tenure, has been all about relationships. It's always about relationships and partnerships. So you have vendors, you have subcontractors, you have suppliers, you have people that you rely on to help you do your business. And I truly think that that is our future as One Auction View, is to continue to strengthen these partnerships and these relationships, and add more of these people into the fold. Because I again, as an agnostic, in the middle party, as One Auction View is, we love everybody: big auction, small auction, big dealer, small dealer, other players. We just want to play with everybody.
Yeah, thank you. What about, do you have any, based on what you're seeing, what are some of your predictions for 2024 for the overall auto industry?
I think it's going to be a little bit tough the second half of this year. I think the June, July is, we're going to see that supply demand kind of cross, and we're going to see some issues, because supply is going to obviously increase by about that time, and then demand is also going to wane some, because this is an election year. So election years always are that black swan that you never know what's going to happen. But typically, buyers always sit on their hands on an election year 3 to 4 months before an election. So don't be surprised if the second half of this year really gets kind of slow, and that's consistent with some of the other industry insiders that I've been talking to as well.
Yeah.
But 25, I think 25, from what I've read, and obviously looking at the macro and microeconomics of supply and demand of vehicles being out there, 25 looks like it's going to be probably the tightest inventory that we're going to have, just because the shortfall of production of vehicles is actually going to catch up to us in 25. So I think 25 will actually be a stronger year, just simply because the shortfall of vehicles. So it's going to kind of shore up some things, if you would.
What do you think that means for the auto transport companies?
Well, it's we all care about moving cars and selling cars and moving the metal, as I like to say. So that's really going to look. I think it's going to be a competitive landscape in 25, just because they're predicting that there's going to be less vehicles out there. Not an astronomical amount, but a smaller margin. So it's just going to make the landscape a little bit more competitive. So that's not a bad thing. But it's just going to be, obviously, it's not going to be any time for anybody to rest on their laurels and think that it's going to be easy street. I do think 25 will actually be better than 24, especially because obviously 24 is an election year.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Well, thanks, Skye. That's it. That's all I have for you for today. I appreciate you taking time and chatting with me about your background, the automotive industry, the auto transport space. Incredible things that you're doing. We're big fans of your work. Excited to continue supporting your journey, following your journey, rooting for you on this journey. And good luck and congrats with inspiring work at One Auction View.
Yeah, thanks for being a partner of One Auction View. We're excited to continue this journey with SuperDispatch, and thank you for being an early supporter, and obviously with the latest integration that we did with you guys. We're super excited to continue getting this out in the marketplace and look forward to giving you updates as things progress and we get involved in more aspects of solving more things automotive.
Thanks, Skye.
Cool.
Talk to
Thank
soon,
you.
man.
Appreciate
Thanks.
the time. Thank you.
too,
Thanks,
man.
Beck.
Thanks, bye.